Hello, church. This is Pastor John, and I'm coming with the devotional for this day. I'm reading from the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. Again, that's chapter 12 of Hebrews, verses 1 through 3. Hear these words. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. This morning, as we look at Hebrews, I love this section of Hebrews because it talks about the race marked out before us. And as you can see, I'm in my office this morning, and I have a hanger with all the medals from all the races that I have participated in the last couple of years, quite a few years, not just the last couple of years. And there's some special ones I wanted to show you this morning. The first one here is the 13, the half from Houston. This is the half marathon from Houston, a big star on it. That's the latest one that I ran. Wonderful, wonderful race. And then there is this fun one. This is the inaugural finisher and hopefully final home half marathon. People all over the United States ran this race at home because it was during COVID, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time as we all ran in different cities and in different places, and we all got a medal and a certificate and all that kind of stuff. And then the final one is this hot chocolate, the Hot Chocolate 15K, which is an incredible race. It's in Dallas, and you know that every race has water stops and where people get water. Well, in the Dallas Hot Chocolate, the 15K, the water stops all have water, but they also have chocolate. So you'll have M&Ms, you'll have Snickers, you'll have all this kind of stuff. And then when you get to the finish line, there's this huge blue kind of bowl thing that you get that has hot fondue and apples and all kinds of things. Then you get a hot chocolate, and you get more chocolate when you get to the end. And that's a fun race to participate in, even though I didn't really eat all the chocolate. I got to a point and I was like, okay, no more chocolate. I need water. I love to run. I love to run and to be involved in races. And in this part of the scripture, as the writer to the Hebrews is talking, remember at the very beginning it says, therefore. And the previous chapter to this section is the incredible hall of faith. It's the people, the writer talks about Abraham and Noah by faith Isaac, by faith Jacob, by faith Moses, and talks about all the incredible people of the past who've walked this journey of faith and have continued on. And he says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a cloud of witnesses, therefore what came before this, the hall of faith, we need to look at that and understand that we're surrounded by a large group of witnesses, that there are people surrounding us as we run this journey of faith. The writer also goes on to say, first of all, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. There's a couple things in this whole section, and the main point of this whole section, the main kind of phrase is let us run. That is the purpose, or the kind of meat of this entire section, is about let us run. And so if we are to run, the writer says, if we are to run this race of faith, we are to throw off all that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. We are to run it by means of perseverance. We are to persevere through the race. And we are to run it fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of the faith. Those three things. And I just want to bring those out to you during our devotional today and kind of give you some stories about them and ways that how they apply to some of the things that I've gone through as I've run the race. The first one is that we're to throw off all that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. My friends, sometimes things in life must be rejected if we are to run effectively. It tells us to let us throw off everything that hinders. In a race, you don't run a race in regular clothes. There is a kind of, there's running shorts, there's a running t-shirt, there's specific running shoes, there's socks. You're trying to not hinder your body. You're trying to have as least amount of weight that you can because you're running this long distance. And so you kind of don't wear the same kind of clothes that you would wear on a regular basis. I was in a race in Dallas once, and it was like some people just showed up and they didn't have running shoes on, and they weren't really wearing a shirt that you would run when you run 13 miles, especially in Texas. They weren't prepared because they hadn't thrown off all those things that were going to hinder them on the race. They thought it was just another kind of thing. We have to understand that this race of faith, this journey of faith, is something different, and that we are to throw off everything that hinders. Throw it off. We have to throw it off. It took me several times in some of my races to understand that I couldn't, the night before a race, just have wonderful pepperoni pizza with all the toppings and drink pop and all that kind of stuff and expect to run effectively the next morning. I had to hinder myself. I had to throw that off. I had to eat well during the night before and actually the day before if I wanted to be effective in that race. As we are on this journey of faith, there are some things in life that we have to reject if we are to run effectively. The second thing is that this Christian life, like a long distance run, is difficult and therefore takes sustained effort. It takes sustained effort. I mean, I don't get up one day and say, okay, today I'm going to go run a 13.1 mile race. No, I start 12, 15 weeks before, start running, start cross-training, start running, building up the mileage, slowly getting to that point. And then, what's interesting, the week before, you cut back on all the mileage. You stop. It's called tapering. You don't run as much. You continue to run, but you don't run the mileage that you've been running the week before because you're preparing your body to continue to run the long race that you're about to do. So you don't want to do the mileage right at the week prior to the race, but you're preparing your body because the long distance run is difficult and requires sustained effort. There's a reason why I get up at 5 o'clock and get on bikes at 5 o'clock 3 days a week. I learned that by doing that, eventually when I run another race, it helps me in my running. Being on that bike and doing 50 minutes of spinning class, and that helps me in my running. It helps me to sustain that effort when the run gets difficult. I was in a race in the Piney Woods, and I was just running. It was a wonderful race, and about mile 2, another runner came up and we started talking, and she was like, oh, isn't it pretty, SFA, this campus is just beautiful, and oh, the Piney Woods, I just love it, it's just gorgeous. And we just started talking, and mile 4, mile 5, mile 8, mile 9, mile 10, suddenly the race was over because we had continued to just keep dialoguing and talking and running together this race that is difficult. This journey that is difficult shouldn't be ran by just one person. You should run it together. It's much easier when you have someone running it together to help you sustain that effort of a long distance. It says, run with perseverance the race marked out for us. This journey has been marked out for us. We know how we are to run the course. It's interesting. There was a story once in this course of a person who'd signed up for a half marathon, 13.1 miles, and like a lot of the smaller races, the course sometimes isn't marked out as well, and you got to really watch it. Where the big races you can tell and that kind of thing, but the smaller races, the course sometimes isn't marked out too well. And so this person was signed up for the half marathon. Well, he was running, and where the half marathon turns to come back toward the finish line and the full marathon turns to continue on for quite a few more miles, he missed the turn, and so he just kept going with the full marathon. There is a race marked out. There is a course marked out for us. There is a way to run this race, and we have to be aware of how to run it and the course that we're running. And we need to watch and be careful and run the race that is set out and marked out for us. The final thing I want to talk to you about is where it says fixing our eyes upon Jesus. A healthy view of Christ and our relationship with him is paramount. It says, let us run the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. You know, there's a race that you run. There's a race in Dallas where at the end, the last quarter mile of the half marathon was one of the biggest hills in Dallas. It's in downtown Dallas, and there's this hill. And you're exhausted, you've ran the race, you've gotten to the end, and then here is this hill. And people will tell you that when you get to that hill, not to look down, but to look out, to continue to look out toward the top of the hill, to keep your eyes fixed on the top of the hill, on what you're running toward. My friends, on this journey of faith, we are to fix our eyes on Jesus. We are to continue to fix our eyes on Jesus as we run this race, because he is the pioneer and perfecter of the faith. Our healthy view of Christ and our relationship with him is vital. We need to continue to look toward Jesus as we continue on in this journey. The three things that I see in this part of verse in Hebrews 12 is that some things in life must be rejected if we are to run effectively. The Christian life is like a long-distance run and is difficult and therefore takes sustained effort. And a healthy view of Christ and our relationship with him is paramount. It is paramount that we do this. And then this section ends with these words: consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Even during these times, these crazy times where things are changing rapidly each day, we are to consider Jesus, how he endured such opposition as he endured the cross, so that we will not grow weary and lose heart. My friends, as you run this race that is set before us, as you persevere in this long distance race, as you keep your eyes on Jesus, may your heart not grow weary, and may you not lose heart, because we can fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of the faith. And he will help us make it through this race, this journey of faith. May you have a blessed day as you go about your day, and may you be the love and the grace and the mercy of Jesus Christ to all that you meet.